Hello and welcome to Angry Andy Reviews, and today I've got something pretty special. As you can see right here with me, I have Mr. Dan Brazier of Spider Dan and the Secret Boars, and today we're going to be looking at Rambo First Blood. Welcome, Mr. Brazier, to this horribly inept discussion I think is going to happen on Rambo First Blood. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I am ready to push and to give people a wall they'll never believe. I'm ready for this. I'm full on. I've geared up. I've got my bandana ready. Kind of little Prince inspired, I think. Little sexy purple
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, definitely,
Um,
definitely Prince inspired.
but no, I'm in my new home. I've got all my geeky gear set up.
I
Um,
get
looking all good, looking all snazzy. And I'm really looking forward to talk about an absolute classic um,
absolutely.
from from Sylvester Stallone, the man himself.
Yeah. So this is not. It's not really going to be a review so much. It's going to be a bit of a discussion, really, isn't it? So it's going to take a bit of a different format, probably to what I'm used to doing. But yeah, we'll just roll with it. It definitely is one of the pillars of the action movie genre, and the war movie genre as well, because of what it did and how it changed sort of the perspective of both genres, really.
Yeah, I think so. I think you got a lot of these kind of Vietnam veteran movies after this. There was like a whole slew of them. Like after this, like every action hero is like a Vietnam veteran,
Yeah.
or they've been trained, or they're coming out of Vietnam. Like even like earlier than that, like the black exploitation stuff. I think there's a lot of kind of Vietnam kind of martial artists and stuff in that.
Yeah.
But I think this really kind of cemented the idea of the reluctant warrior, the reluctant kind of soldier, and that the war kind of never really ends, and the kind of the PTSD, because I think that was never really kind of addressed, really, like
No,
even
yeah,
back
yeah.
then.
I was going to say like the post traumatic stress
Yeah,
angle of the film is pretty. It was pretty unique. It was the first kind of thing, um, the first kind of film to really explore that in any great detail. And I think that's where like the long term appreciation of the film has come in, because initially the film was a bit of a mixed reviewed film when it came out, First Blood. There were people that thought it was great, there were people that absolutely hated it. But as time's gone on, people have looked back on it, and after sort of like the Iraq War, the first one, the first Gulf War, where you had you know all the little issues of post-traumatic stress disorder and Gulf War syndrome and all that coming after it, people started to piece things together and say, oh, okay, well, veterans from previous wars, obviously struggled with similar things, and that's where sort of like the more appreciation of Rambo, came into focus. The sheer fact that it deals with it so raw and so authentically, um, through Sylvester Stallone. It's that's where the appreciation and the long term appeal of Rambo First Blood sort of stem from.
and I think a lot of the kind of war movies before this, you'd never got that. It was just like
No,
rah rah buddies in war doing lots of murder, yay
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
People
Like,
died, but you didn't see sort of like the after effects of it.
yeah, and the kind of atrocities and things that would go on.
Yeah,
I think like Platoon has a lot of that sort of stuff in it as well. Like even more so than Rambo
mm.
does. Like really, because obviously it's based on a lot of like real experiences of Oliver Stone and things.
Yeah, yeah,
But I remember there was like the John Wayne movie, like I think it's Green Berets or something like that, which
yeah,
is a
yeah,
bit more like we definitely should have gone to Vietnam. We definitely should have done all this horrible
yeah,
shit. Yay war! Yay
yeah.
America!
Whereas like
So
Rambo quite poignantly says, yeah, he was a Green Beret as well, but it didn't go well. It did not go well for him. He was captured, tortured, beaten. Lost all his friends
hmm.
and all that. I mean, the only other film that I can think of that like dealt with PTSD, I think before Rambo, was probably Deer Hunter.
Yeah, yeah, you're
I mean,
right.
that's the only other one that I can think of. But again, that is such a heavy film that I think it took a very long time for that sort of film to, get a bit of an appeal with it as well. It took me a long time to understand Deer Hunter and to appreciate Deer Hunter.
Yeah, I think I definitely need to rewatch Deer Hunter. I think.
Yeah, it's
Again,
basically
I
three
didn't.
films. It's pretty much three
Yeah,
films. You got three major act. It's essentially like an opera. It's just it's long, it's thoughtful, and it's provocative as well, and it's hard. It's a hard film to watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember it was a slog, but not in like a bad way.
Yeah,
It was like okay, I'm in the emotional trenches,
yeah,
along with the actual trenches as well.
yeah,
But yeah, I think you're right, and I think there's though I would say later films do kind of would approach it I think a little bit more realistically and a bit more kind of genuinely.
yeah,
I think Rambo is one of the ones that because it does have mainstream appeal. It's an action movie. It's got a big star in it. It does have that appeal
yeah,
for a wider audience. People that probably wouldn't have seen Deer Hunter actually saw this and went, "Oh bloody hell!
yeah,
Maybe I've misunderstood the war. Maybe I've misunderstood the soldiers that have come back.
yeah,
Maybe I should have been more sensitive to these things."
yeah.
And I think the film does a really good job. I know the book's a lot more kind of Rambo's a lot more bloodthirsty, and I think he kills quite a lot of people.
Yeah, I've never read the book. I've never even sort of explored the option to read it either. I really should, to be fair.
Yeah, I was watching a video for research for this from Cinefix, really good kind of video YouTube channel on movies and stuff, and they did a kind of what's the difference between the book and the film, and they were saying how the author actually prefers the film as well. That he thinks is a bit more of a it's more of a more sympathetic. Like Rambo's a little bit more unhinged in the book, and he
Yeah.
does kill. And also the is it Seal? Is it Seal, the sheriff? I can't remember his name.
Oh,
Brian Dennehy. Brian
yeah,
Dennehy
yeah,
plays
Brian Dennehy. Yeah, I can't remember the character's name.
yeah,
Literally just
yeah.
punched it like
It's
five.
Searle. It's Searle or Seal or something like that. Anyway, he is a veteran of the Korean War, and the
Oh, okay.
writer was coming at it that they both have these quite different perspectives, but they're both coming from very well-meaning places.
Yeah,
And obviously, Rambo is very heavily kind of mentally ill at this point. A lot of the similar things happen. There is a lot of the stuff that happens in the movie. It's just
yeah,
slightly altered, as adaptions are.
yeah.
And then it ends. It ends with kind of the similar kind of breakdown. And then Colonel Troutman? Colonel Troutman?
Yeah, Colonel Troutman, yeah.
Colonel Troutman.
Samuel L. Troutman.
Yeah, he shoots Rambo dead
Yeah,
as well because he's killed all these people. There's no going back. But
yeah,
I think I think it was better done in the film because it makes Rambo more sympathetic, and
yeah,
he's more harassed in the film than in the book. They say I've not read the book myself,
yeah.
but that is something that is definitely in the film. And I've dressed worse than Rambo and walked around like small towns.
No, yeah. It's such a. It makes me sort of not cringe, but sort of like question like where is the sheriff coming from? I just don't get it. Yeah, okay. They don't want any. They want to keep the preservation of maybe their idyllic town or whatever. But it's like, I mean, come on. He even says, "Oh, I'm just kind of passing through," and it just goes from 0 to 100 almost straight away, doesn't it?
It reminded me a little bit of Captain America: Civil War, where Bucky is in like Prague or Budapest or something.
Yeah.
He's just trying to buy some plums. That's all he wanted was some plums, and all Rambo wants was just to eat something.
Yeah.
But I think nowadays, like definitely after kind of looking at like after something like the Black Lives Matter movement and everything,
yeah,
you can see those parallels are still very strong today of the harassment and the abuse of police power. If they remade this, I'm pretty sure they would. That's probably the way they would go.
Yeah,
I think that would be their idea would be that let's do this kind of story, but he's still former military, from Iraq or something like that.
Yeah,
he's a veteran. Again, I don't see them. I mean, Last Blood just came out. They've got Rambo in the newest Mortal Kombat game as well.
Yeah,
if you want to go play that. I don't see them replacing Stallone in that role anytime soon.
No, I don't. Yeah,
it kind of is. Again, it's like Rocky. Like I know we had Creed, but that's a very different animal from Rocky. Again with Rambo, I don't see them, and also maybe Rambo is kind of a product of its time. and I don't know if it would have the same effect, or you might need to spin it in a different way for it to
Yeah,
work.
I
Which
mean, it would have to be, if they were going to spin it in a different way, it'd have to be, deep special forces and things like that, wouldn't it? As opposed to,
yeah,
Vietnam Green Beret.
yeah, like a Navy SEAL or something,
Yeah,
maybe. Or
because obviously the nature of the Vietnam War is such that a lot of stuff went wrong and a lot of people died, and obviously it was a war that nobody wanted, a war that nobody knew what they were fighting for as well.
yeah,
You could spin it in modern times for like the Iraq War or whatever, but I don't think it would work because of the nature of modern warfare, if you like, because it is very much, planes and satellites and all that. I don't think it would work. It is a product of time because of the authenticity of his survival skills that Stallone, demonstrates in the film. Because it is all about survival. He's hiding in the forest. He's, using the environment to his advantage. You won't get that from a modern warfare kind of Rambo remake. It just wouldn't.
no, I guess not.
I mean,
No,
you could probably spin it in some way, in the wild lands of Russia or somewhere like that, maybe.
yeah.
But
Maybe he's like an extreme survivalist or something like that. Maybe,
yeah,
or
yeah, I
potentially
mean,
like former soldier
yeah,
going on to extreme survivalist. But
yeah.
um,
I mean, the
yeah,
trouble is
it's
just like of just thinking about it, the trouble is that we've got all these shows of SAS operatives doing survival skills and whatever on ITV. It probably wouldn't hit. A film like that
yeah.
wouldn't hit. I don't think. I don't think it because war films tend to be, they have to be really extreme and really loud at the minute to actually gain an audience. I think war films are quite out of vogue, if you like. Nobody
Yeah.
really wants to see them, and that's because of
How did
the previous wars.
Dunkirk did all right though, didn't it? Dunkirk.
Yeah, but again, but that's what it's World War II film, isn't it? And it wasn't really all out action all the time. It was
Yeah.
quite, you know, ah,
Poignant.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the word I
Yeah.
was looking for, rather than ha.
Yeah. I'm.
But then again, I didn't like Dunkirk. Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Might upset a
there
few.
you go. I haven't seen it, so can't comment. But yeah,
Again, it's
I
mad.
think I think you're probably right though. I think there is that you don't see as much of those kind of bit. I think the same with disaster movies as well. I've never been a massive fan of like disaster movies.
I was in like the early noughties, but now they're just
I've just it just they don't interest me as much. I just
no,
think I kind of once the thing has happened, and like the survival element is interesting, but again, a lot of them are just like it's just very very samey. It's
yeah.
just like
How
it's
many
just like
big
what's
waves can we possibly see in movies? Come
yeah
on.
exactly.
I mean,
Or
the only one that I saw quite recently that was actually good was a foreign one. I think it was like a Norwegian film, and that was about a
okay,
giant wave. I can't remember what it's called. That's really bad, but
nice.
that was actually pretty good. But it focused on like this family group. I know most disaster movies focus on the family group, but it kept it quite compact. It didn't really
Mm,
focus on the government's messing up or ignoring the signs or anything. It just kept it you know, quite
mm.
contained. It was literally just a survival film amongst, this massive, huge tidal wave that just consumed the whole of Norway or wherever.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. You've got to keep it like I think a lot of disaster movies and sometimes war movies as well. They try and make these big, grand, epic
Yeah,
stories, but I'd much rather see a smaller story within that kind
yeah,
of like within the World War II umbrella or
yeah.
the Vietnam umbrella. I'd rather see that.
Yeah, that's what we get with Rambo. It's kept very contained, very compact. You see, very brief flashbacks, to when he's in Vietnam being tortured, and those are enough to give you sort of like a taste and a flavor of, oh my, he's really suffering. Even the smallest thing like somebody pulling out a razor, sets him off completely. He
Yeah,
can't help it.
yeah.
Yes,
I
the
that
great thing about Rambo is how small and how contained it is. It does have some big moments in it, but it is still very much compact and tight and focuses on the characters.
and like and in terms of like action movies, I think it's like you said before with the survival skills and the things that he's doing. It does have an edge of realism to it, even though
Yeah,
it is still a big budget kind of action movie. There is kind of still that like could possibly foresee that happening. I could imagine that. I can imagine the stone hitting the helicopter and the guy falling out. I can imagine him building the spikes and traps and stuff, and being able to dodge, kind of hide within all the kind of shrubbery and stuff. There is an element of like, this is possible. People have done this. It's not a superhero movie. He's, maybe later films he does become a little bit like that. I think that's probably the weakness of the Rambo franchise, because the message is very clear in this one.
Yeah,
it's very much like war is bad, murdering is bad. Even it causes people to have severe mental problems. Trying to deal with all the stuff they've seen and done. And then the second one, it's like, I think I'm just gonna shoot people.
Yeah, he still has the random moments where he's thinking about what's going on and reacting to it. And the second one where he's with a Vietnam girl, I think, or
it's like a Vietnam kind of deep cover agent or something.
And she gets completely blown away, doesn't she? And then
it's quite funny though, because it's quite funny because he goes, "Yeah, I love you. We'll find a better place. Everything will be all right." And then Rambo turns away, kisses her, turns away from her. She gets shot immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
And then that guy gets it really bad. I think he gets like an explosive arrow.
Yeah.
And he just like.
Ah!
But I think maybe that response and that kind of film, Rambo 2 and Rambo 3 and kind of so on, I think is a response. Yeah, exactly. Is kind of a response to that first film not being as bloody, but then the book was. So I think maybe they were like, I want more of the book, or let's see more of that. So I think that was it. And I mean, there's a lot of kind of films like Chuck Norris is missing in action and things like that. There's loads of those. We've got to rescue the POWs. Even the director of the next film he did was called Uncommon Valor, and it's about Gene Hackman going to rescue his son, who's a Vietnam POW, which is kind of one of Bong Joon-ho's favorite movies, actually. Loves that movie. Because I remember doing the research of the host, and he was like, "That's one of my favorite movies. It's great." But I've not personally seen it. But
no, never have
I. The director of this film also did Weekend at Bernie's, believe it or not.
All right, fair enough. That's
a bit different, a little sidestep for him.
Mass murder to Weekend at Bernie's. Excellent.
But I think the message gets diluted throughout the subsequent sequel.
That's the problem. They're never able to sort of bring it back. I mean, they try and bring it back a little bit in Rambo, which is Rambo 4, but then at the same time, you have him literally decimate an entire army single-handedly. I mean, it goes from him obliterating people with a heavy machine gun on the ground, then he destroys a truck, then he destroys a boat, and then carries on obliterating people. And I think the body count in Rambo 4 is ridiculous, and most of it's just by him. And I mean, with the more action you put into it, the more, as much as I enjoy it, the more chaos that's in it, the less impact the sort of his character has.
The emotional weight is lightened by all the action.
Yeah, I mean, the very end of Rambo 4, he finally goes home to the ranch, where his family, has owned, and it's kind of a bit flat. Like it's kind of like, well, Jesus, he just massacred an entire army, and now he's going home. What changed? What changed for him? He's been in hiding in Cambodia or wherever all this time. And
if you owned a ranch, like why are you a vagrant? Or why are you getting arrested for vagrancy?
I mean, it's kind of a bit. I mean, you could say in the first one he's trying to find his place in a world that doesn't recognize him, which is quintessentially the message of the film. It's like he says it at the end. He comes home, he's handling $1 million equipment, and he can't even hold down a job. Shifting cars. So it's clear that First Blood, he can't find his place. There's nowhere for him, despite all this, ability that he has to do things. But it gets lost, especially with Last Blood. Last Blood, I watched it. didn't care for it at all because the messaging's all shot. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it was a bit of a one with a bit of a. I enjoy the action and the violence and all that sort of stuff, but again, the message was like, I know there was a lot of accusations about it being a bit potentially a bit racist or a bit kind of xenophobic, especially with the kind
Yeah,
of Mexican cartel being the villains.
yeah.
I'm not really sure if I mean that's an opinion. I'm not sure I share it, but
I mean,
it's
you could
there.
say the same thing about Rambo 4, like you just
Yeah,
the way
Rambo 2.
the entire army. Rambo 2 as well. I mean,
Yeah, you could say the same. You could say the same thing.
Rambo has got some horribly mistimed and missed you know, when you look at it now, it's kind of like, oh, Jesus Christ. That's why it's never shown on TV anymore.
Yeah, I can imagine. I got rewatching this. I got a lot of like I haven't watched First Blood for quite a while.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Predator, as you know. Love a good Arnie Predator movie. And I got a lot of Predator vibes from this. Like even some of the score, there's kind of like a kind of a similar. There's a similar kind of like sort of similar to that. It's not the same. I have to say as well, Jerry Goldsmith on the score absolutely makes this movie as well. Like, I don't think this movie would be as good if we didn't have Jerry Goldsmith. He's probably, I'll go out on a limb. I think he's probably my favorite composer. I think from the films I've seen. I think he's one of the best. I tend to watch a lot of genre stuff, I think he tends to do a lot of genre stuff. So I do really kind of. I think he's up in my like top 10 at least, top 5. But I think his score is excellent. It's triumphant yet very somber as well. Not too sure about that ending song, to be honest. It's a little, little too cheesy for me.
Literally finished watching it before, and it's going out, and then the singing comes in. I was like, oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I can't even remember
the lines. It's a long road. It's like, they drew first blood. Yeah, if they just left the lyrics out, it would have been fine. But it does seem like a very Stallone song, like a song that he would have in his films. It feels like almost like it would be in a Rocky film, like in that place.
Yeah.
But even the traps and stuff and the way he like it's almost like a bit of a slasher movie. Like he's the monster or the villain.
I mean, that's one angle that I really really like about the film is like there's almost that essence that he's got. When you were saying before about him getting killed in the book, I mean, Colonel Trapman literally says, "I think you should." The sheriff says to him, "I think you should shoot him," and he goes, "Well, we'll see when I see him. When we meet face to face, I'll make a decision then." And you get kind of plays to that, like when he's setting up all these traps and maiming people, and he almost kills that kid. You're like, he's a mad dog here. They're going to have to do something. They're going to have to put him down. I mean, there was a lot of sort of like negativity towards the ending because it just kind of pushes away. It does in a way like he just walks out with the colonels, obviously in handcuffs or whatever, but because it just ends there. There was a lot of negativity saying it doesn't quite fit for the character. I do often wonder what would have happened. Obviously we wouldn't have had the sequels, but I do wonder what would have happened had they done something where he's saying all the stuff about his friend that was tricked into opening the shine box in a bar and it blew him up and everything, and all the emotional journey that he goes through in that final scene. I do wonder what would have happened if the colonel had shot him. A similar thing to maybe like of Mice and Men. He's letting all this out, all this emotions pouring out, and he's finally, after he reveals like all this emotional stuff and all these feelings, and he's comforted by the colonel. I wonder what would have happened, if that would have been the moment that the colonel, shoots him.
I think at the time, obviously, this was, for an action movie, fairly political, and I think they were fairly concerned about what people would think and how they would view Vietnam veterans. Like Rambo says, people have been, he turns up at the airport, he's getting spat on and called a baby killer and things like this. And I think if he was as homicidal as he was in the book, and he was killed off, I think public sentiment would be like, well, they're all bad. They're all like Rambo. Let's
Yeah.
lock them up or kill them. And I think the way they handled it in the film was a little bit more sensitive. And it's like there needs to be like it's like extending the kind of the olive branch and the kind of understanding that people have seen stuff you wouldn't believe, and they need help, they need assistance. We can't just turn our backs on them. Like this is like the sheriff's like, you're a vagrant, you're going to cause trouble, you're not well, you shouldn't even be wearing that American flag, he says.
Yeah, that's a really, like, it almost implies that where this little town is completely anti-American, which is, I guess, is kind of like a maybe a sort of finger pointing statement saying, if you supported our troops or if you treated them, with respect when they came back, things would have been better for our society or whatever. And there's places like this and people like you that, cause all these vets to have, so much trouble. Just help them.
Well, I was reading some of the trivia. I went on IMDb and
there's tons of trivia.
A lot of trivia.
Unbelievable. The amount of like references and trivia and connection.
The Rambo knife was never in the book, and it was designed. Stallone picked the guy to design it. Like there's so much stuff. Like one of my favorite ones is that Stallone describes Rambo as a Frankenstein's monster. Like he was made by Uncle Sam, by Colonel Troutman. Like Colonel Troutman's the Dr. Frankenstein, and he's let loose this killing machine. And now, what do we do? He's loose. He's not doing what he was supposed to do. And I quite like that idea, and it kind of ties into that feeling like a kind of a slasher film or a monster movie.
Yeah. You're right. The Colonel says it in the film, doesn't he? One of the deputies goes, "What kind of god created this?" And Colonel goes, "It wasn't God, it was me. I created him. For 3 years I trained him and I ordered him around and all that." So I mean, he's literally a creature bred for war. And what happens when the war's over? Well, there you go.
Yeah, you can't. It's like entropy. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. It's out now.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to deal with it. I always quite. Richard Crenna is great as Troutman.
I mean, it's that little bit of cheddar. There's a little bit
of cheese.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a grated cheese on top, but what he says is very poignant, the way he responds to Rambo, because obviously Troutman was probably on the other end of the radio giving them orders, and to see one of his own soldiers, probably his best soldier and his only surviving soldier, completely torn apart from the inside out at the end of the film, you can see Troutman sort of like reevaluating everything in his eyes. You can see him pondering, what did we do? What did I do? And I think that's something that, again, that gets lost in the sequels. He just kind of turns up and goes, "Yeah, you better calm down, or do you need more weapons?" And it's like, you weren't like this. You were trying to solve the problem. You were trying to bring back a man, not send him out.
He turns up in every film and kind of just talks Rambo up. He was like, "You better get a good load of body bags. He's the best of the best of the best." And it's like, okay, we know. But however, I like every time he does it, I kind of get sucked in by the performance a little bit. Like, I think he finds a way to deliver that. It's not just exposition or bullshit. It's kind of, he finds a way to like actually like pull me in and go, actually, bloody hell, I'm scared of Rambo now. I'm worried about this war he's going to bring. And even in the film, he says, like he calls Rambo out for his shit as well at the end. He goes, they started it, but you pushed it further than it was possible, it was even necessary. Exactly. And that whole breakdown, like you were saying, with talking about, I can't find your legs. I can't find your legs.
It's brilliant. Great scene. Just highlights go on.
No, go on. Sorry, I was going to say, Stallone hated the initial cut of the film as well, and he said, "Cut me out of it." He said, "I don't like my performance in it. I want you to cut as much as you can. Give the story to the other actors. Pass it over." I think it works because he's this almost. like you understand him without him saying that much. He's got
Yeah,
very little dialogue in the film. And I think that was a good choice by Stallone. I think, I don't know what was in there or
yeah.
how it was kind of perceived and stuff.
I imagine it was probably like exposition dumps, more and
Yeah,
more exposition dumps, as opposed to just reactionary acting. It was probably just like trying to explain why he's doing things. I mean, that
yeah,
final scene, it's just, like I said, it's just a big emotional drop, isn't it? Everything just pours out of him, and it's that one thing in the bar that really he can't get out of his head. And it's great. I mean, I'm sure Stallone looks back on it and thinks, it's probably one of my best films. For me, Rambo, First Blood, is probably, one of his best films. Top three for me. I mean, I love Demolition Man, but I think First Blood is literally one of the pinnacle films of his career. I mean, that goes without saying, really. And it is majority, like, the main majority of it comes from that final scene. I love all the survival stuff. I love all like like I said, the authenticity of his performance in that survival stuff, because he had survival training, so he was doing it based on what he knows rather than acting it, if you like. So I think that I like that more than anything. But that final sequence when he's just pouring everything out it's perfect. It's perfect. I don't think I've seen anything similar to that in any war film, other than maybe, to a lesser degree, when Matt Damon's describing, his family back home and his brothers messed around with a girl in the barn and the bar sets fire, and it's a different kind of emotion because he's pouring out like a happy emotion, and it makes him laugh, and it makes Tom Hanks laugh as well, and then you get that thing.
yeah.
Tell me about your wife.
It's more kind of a lighter. It's kind of more of a lighter moment, isn't it? It's like, we're stuck in this situation. Here's a bit of levity, but wow.
And that's the only other sort of example I can think of which really kind of hits that emotional power, if you like. Because
I love that. I love that his voice breaks as well. Like it's not just like he's like and you can't even. It gets to a point where you just can't like. To be fair, like Stallone has like from birth has like facial paralysis, so that's why he kind of slurs and you can't hear him, can't understand him sometimes very well. But he's really going for it, and he becomes like you can't make out what he's saying, but kind of still you still kind of get the gist of what he's talking about. Yeah. And the bit where he's like, I can't find your legs. I can't find your legs. I can't. He's just like, I want to go home. I want to go home. I can't find your legs. Where are my legs, Johnny? Where are my legs? It's devastating. You don't need to see that. Like you don't need a flashback of that because that's there in that performance and in that moment. And I think again, the strength of that moment is again the lack of Stallone's kind of dialogue and stuff in the film.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it all just comes out in one thing, like nothing is over. It's not over. The war's not over. Nothing is over. And again, one of the kind of the best kind of, I don't know, monologues or kind of, moments captured on film. Again, utterly devastating for that character. And again, like you kind of, obviously in the book, he's a bit, the sheriff's a bit more kind of sympathetic. But in this, it's just like he does have moments. I'll give him that. Brian Denner, he does have moments where he's like goes to the bar or he tries to stop the deputy from shooting Rambo. He's like, "What are you doing?" Or or when the oh god, what are the you're
gonna say the reserve army group.
Yeah, they're like, "Come out, Rambo," and they're like, "You go in," and it's like, "Okay, no, actually, you go in. You go.
Don't shoot until I get there." The all open fire, all 30 of them.
And then they get the bazooka out and like blow up the mine he's in as well. And he's just like, "What are you doing? Like, we need him alive. We want him alive. We want him arrested." So he is kind of trying to do the right thing. Again, like totally harassing, totally like Rambo is right. They drew first blood. Like they made the issue. Like the deputy's the worst guy, and he's the one who dies, and he kind of deserves it, even if it is by accident. He definitely deserves it. But it's David Caruso's in this as well. I forgot.
Yeah, he is.
Young David Caruso.
Deputy Mitch Rogers. I've got it up here. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so it was nice to see him in kind of an earlier role, and he's great in it. Again, another like
Yeah,
he's probably the
he's the
most
one that basically,
sympathetic.
yeah, he gets all the information saying, oh, he's a Medal of Honor winner, he's a Green Beret. I think we should just leave him alone. Everyone's like, shut up, kid. And he's like, he's the only one, really. That obviously, he's probably, create a bit of backstory from him. He's probably looked at sort of like Vietnam and all that and gone, Christ, this was probably terrible. Can't imagine what I'd have been like in it. And then when he's looking at this, he goes, guys, we need to stop because he's going to kill us all. But even before,
I think
when
Dennehy grabs him as like, I'm
yeah,
gonna do this. He's killed a man. We're gonna stop him. And like David Caruso's like, I knew there was something about him. I
yeah,
knew there was something.
yeah.
Um,
But
and
it,
it's like, no,
it starts like pretty much from the first time you see him, don't you? Because he's like, when he's taking him into the cells, he's like, come on, man, don't cause any trouble. Let's just go. Let's just get this done. So there is like there is sympathy there, but it's kind of like it's twisted
yeah,
by
and it
the
kind
old
of
people.
it does lessen throughout the film as well. Obviously, the more
Yeah,
chaos and carnage Rambo creates, and the death of their friend, the deputy.
yeah,
Even though he is an arsehole anyway, he's still kind of their friend and their colleague.
yeah,
It's a kind of it's nice to have a few of the softer moments, because
yeah, yeah.
if it was just over the top and like, we hate you because you're different, if there
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
that
It,
kind of
it wouldn't work at all.
human quality, it wasn't a slight human quality to these characters that have
Yeah,
been harassing Rambo. And again, like Rambo's soft as well. Like he can be as hard as he wanted to. Like
yeah,
like Krenner says, he could have killed every single person
yeah,
in that, every cop, every person in that town. He could just massacred them,
yeah,
but he doesn't. And Krenner's like, Richard Krenner or Troutman. He's like, you have dodged a bullet. You are lucky.
yeah.
Like he could have done all
Yeah.
these things. I think it's
He
a
sets the
miracle.
traps up just to maim, doesn't he? He doesn't actually set them up to, kill anyone direct, because they all like hit the knees or, get somebody in the arm. The only other things he kills is those dogs, isn't it? But that's literally it.
I think it's a boar, is it? The dogs.
A
Yeah, the
bull and
dogs.
some dogs.
That's right. Yeah. The tracker with the guy with the dogs. Yeah. And he eats that boar, so he stabs the boar. And again, that's very kind of Predator. That moment where he's got the stick, and he's like, in the little trap.
Yeah. But it's that whole jungle sort of warfare thing, isn't it? So you get that in Predator. You get the very same things in Predator.
Yeah. And they're both very good movies. Also, it's along with my podcast and my season of alternativity stories. This is a Christmas film. An alternative Christmas film.
In like the very thinnest of thin ways, when he starts shooting up that shop and all the Christmas decorations are just there. I was like,
in the precinct they've got Merry Christmas, but it's missing like an R.
Yeah.
I guess that's like, that was intentional for like Rambo, like the R for Rambo. Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe. Loads of little Christmas trees about. Again, it's not mentioned. It's not brought up. I don't think Christmas is even said. It's just, you can tell it's cold. You can tell it's winter. But yeah, you do see kind of Christmas decorations about. So if you don't want to watch Die Hard this year, like everybody does, or anything like that, you can watch First Blood. But again, like we said, very thin, but it's still technically set at Christmas. So I'm going to take that as an alternative Christmas story.
Well, you can have it. I'll let you have it. I'll let you have that, even though it is as windy as anything. But yeah, you can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thin margin, very thin margin. But I'll take it.
I just think the wintry setting probably, because obviously when you think of Vietnam, you think of humid jungle, don't you? So I think the wintry setting kind of offsets, the extreme survival skills, as opposed to just being in like a generic, tropical jungle. I think it works. I don't think it would have worked so much in terms of like the color and the feel of the film if it was at the height of summer. So it's been set sort of in the middle of winter, probably a couple of weeks before Christmas, kind of, works in favor of the film, especially when he loses the jacket and he's out there and he's crafting and building fires and trying to survive. I think that works for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it juxtaposes when the flashbacks happen as well, because the flashbacks They're obviously
bright.
you can
Those
see that.
flashbacks are quite bright. When it flashes in, it's like, bright, bright orange. The sun is very bright. The colors are very sharp. When it gets cut across, there's a bright red streak when it gets cut, and then it snaps back and it's dark and grey and miserable and drizzly.
Yeah, and you usually, within the flashbacks, it's usually within the police station that he's having them.
Yeah.
So you get those, you get the stark color, that intense, screaming and like intense visuals, and then you flash back to the bland kind of just blank slate of cold, the dreary prison walls and stuff. And again, great juxtaposition for that. But yeah, no, I agree. I think the winter setting helps. Another interesting fact I read on the trivia was the bit of the bit of material he has.
Yeah.
The little, like, I don't know, a bit of like gabardine or whatever they're called, that he cuts and kind of makes a kind of makeshift kind of top. That was not a prop. That was just something they found. So Stallone just kind of used it. Tied it to himself, and it was like smelly use and all that, and but it became like a well-loved prop, even though it wasn't made. Or
I didn't know that. I thought you were going somewhere else.
No, and he has it framed. He still has it.
Wow.
Framed kind of. So it was quite a big deal for him, that little schmuck thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's
where did you think I was going? Where did you think I was going with that?
I don't know. I read something. I don't actually know. I can't really remember. But like you said, there's so much trivia and so much knowledge about this film. It's unreal for a film it's only 90 minutes long. There's so much to learn about it. So much to discuss about it. You could literally go on for hours talking about First Blood, its impact. Not just for war movies, for action movies, and the emotional side of it. You could just talk about it for hours. And that's the great thing about the film, is that it transcends, even though it is a product of its time, it does transcend that period as well.
I mean, we talk a lot these days about men's mental health and dealing with stuff like that. I think before Rambo, you just had the tough guy. You just had the guy who's like tough as nails, slept with women, went away, slept with another woman, kind of like a James Bond type. It's just they're good with the one-liners. They're just tough. There's not much else to them. There's no emotional depth to them. There's no like signs of weakness other than them being beaten up or shot. There's no like signs of emotional vulnerability. And I think Rambo is probably one of the first times we saw that in an action hero, that kind of emotional, weak, vulnerable side to a hero. Like there can still be, deadly killers, soldiers, action stars, these heroes. But I think this was the first time we went, oh shit, fucking hell, something's. He's crying. This guy, this hard man, this killing machine, this Frankenstein's monster that Trapman created, is crying his heart out because all of his friends are dead. Like the first scene in the film, he finds out the last guy in his squad is dead, and that that's.
He didn't die of anything heroic either. He died of cancer, born of all the weaponry they used, which is that hits him harder than knowing that he's been killed in combat or killed on a mission or anything. It hits him harder because it's literally something so innocuous. Like all of his friends were either blown up or killed or died on other missions after Vietnam, and this last person that he goes to, there's sort of like probably the last anchor in his world that he goes to, and he died of cancer, probably in bed alone, and well surrounded by his family, but just slipped away. And for Rambo, I think for Rambo, that is literally the moment. Because after that, he seems quite happy when he gets to the house. He's like, "Oh, where is it? I've got this photo. I've got all this. I've got this. I knew him. Where is he?" And then after that, that's when you have the contact with the sheriff, and his face is completely changed. He doesn't say anything. He's, his mood is completely shifted into that dark place. And then the sheriff is the spark that ignites, the entirety of the film. And it's literally that first scene.
Yeah, the what she says, I think it's Agent Orange or something that gives him the cancer. I think it's something like that. And she says he brought it back from Nam. He brought this back from Nam. So he brought the cancer back.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the mental state as well. You bring it back. You
Yeah.
bring your ghosts with you, and that's what Rambo doesn't have cancer, but he's brought it back.
Yeah.
He's brought back.
He brought back his own.
Experience.
Brought back his own form of cancer, and the cancer is his inability to let go and to move on. He can't move on. It's literally ingrained in his very soul. I think that opening scene is so, you can easily forget about it because of what happens in the film, but that opening scene just like literally sets everything in motion, sets everything in play, sets the entire way that he feels, and it's just as poignant, if you like, as the ending is.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got all the action in the middle and all this kind of stuff, but the two scenes that are kind of the strongest for the emotional way is the beginning and the end. Yeah. And again, you get a nice sandwich of kind of action and intrigue and all that other stuff, but you get that those emotional heart punches at the beginning and at the end, because he's got nothing that connects him to this world. He can't hold down a job. The general basically, once he left the army, he's like, oh, that's it. It's got nothing to do with me anymore. I still like him, but it's not under my command anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't have that instant contact with him. We're not like buddies on the phone or anything. He's traveling anyway. He's traveling around the country.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's genuinely quite, and again, like some people will complain about Stallone not being a kind of a good actor, or or things like that.
Yeah,
He's a bit cheesy and stuff.
Yeah, in this film, he nails it as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely. Whether that is because they edited stuff out or what, it's kind of inconsequential, because looking back on it after all these years, I mean, people love it. People, how old is it? 1982. How old is it?
Yeah.
That's 38 years old.
Wow.
38. Jesus.
Yeah. Jesus.
Isn't it? Unless my math is absolutely terrible.
Don't ask me. My maths is also very poor.
There you go. The fact that people still, talk about the film in the same light as like Terminator and Predator, says everything you need to know about the film. It is literally one of the greatest action movies of all time, and Stallone is a massive part of that. Regardless what you think about his performance, in subsequent films or whatever, his performance in this film is, for me, it's probably is the best performance that he's ever done. I'm not a massive fan of the Rocky films. They don't really grab me at all, but the first Rocky film is up there as well as one of his best performances. It has to be. But for me, Rambo, I think, is much more of an emotionally charged, authentic film.
It's a bit of a shame, I think, because I think that the name Rambo, interesting fact as well, is that in the book he's not named John. That was made for the film. That was
okay.
The film. It's just purely Rambo. That was just his name. It's Rambo, and it's a shame that the term Rambo and the name John Rambo is kind of synonymous with this kind of jingoistic rah America is good and right and just in all their wars. And I think that's probably the problem, is because of those sequels.
Yeah, especially the second and third one. Third one probably more so, because the third one is literally like, America will help you win your wars. And then what happened? Years.
I remember the third one, because they dedicate it to the is it the people of Afghanistan or something like that, and then not all of them, but a contingent of that grouping of people, those soldiers or freedom fighters, whatever you want to call them, became like Al Qaeda and the Taliban. Obviously, so that hasn't aged that well.
I mean, the film, the thing with like Rambo 3 is that it is based loosely on fact, because Russia was peppering Afghanistan, and the Americans sent help to Afghanistan, in the form of weapons or whatever. It's just what happened following, which is why you don't really see Rambo 3 that much being shown. And when you do, there's a lot of edits to it, I think, when it is shown on TV. A lot of edits. I think they edit out the final piece of information where it says dedicated to. But yeah, it's all, like you said, it's all gung ho. It's all America wins the day, and if you don't get America to help you, you can't win. Yeah. Whereas the first film isn't, First Blood isn't that. It's literally America lets its veterans down. That's what the first film is. It's not praising America. He's a Medal of Honor winner, and you only hear it say once. He's a Medal of Honor winner, and it doesn't really mean anything because it doesn't give him anything. It doesn't give him a better life. It doesn't give him, help. He's literally forgotten. If you didn't know he was a Medal of Honor winner, he'd just be another vagrant. And that's the point of the film. It's not. It's why it's such a good film, because it's not about America being, the victor. In fact, America is the loser because it let down all of its soldiers and all of its veterans that put so much on the line. Unlike World War II, unlike the Korean War, where they were, revered and praised. I mean, that's the thing with the Vietnam War. That's why it sticks in the mind so much. That's why so many films are made of it, because it was a pointless war and people died for nothing. There was no victory.
No, there you go. Like, it's, I think that's as well. Like Vietnam was highly televised as well. So
because they thought that's the thing. That was the American gung ho thing. It's like, we'll film it, and we'll show it every night because we're going to win this war. And all that happened was America watched America lose.
I remember on More 4 years ago, I watched this documentary. I can't remember what it was called, but it was very graphic and showing stuff from Vietnam. There's even a scene of a guy who gets shot directly in the head, like on screen, dead.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of documentaries. Probably not that one, but I've seen a lot because I've got a fascination with Vietnam purely for not just with the Americans, but with like the French. Now the French held it, and the French army got completely annihilated before the Americans went in, and I mean like annihilated. Yeah. Whatever army they had was completely decimated in Vietnam. But some of the documentaries, because it was literally, there were cameramen right next to the battles, like filming everything. There are some really horrible things in there, but
the scene I'm talking about, well, the scene, but the real life event was like, it was just some guy got arrested in the street. It's like a revolver. They point it directly to his head, shoot it, and then blood squirting out of his head.
I've seen that.
I was like, can they show this on a documentary? Is that even legal? And I was like, it disturbed me for about a week. I was like, fucking hell. I can do false violence and theatrical violence and stuff, but when it comes to kind of real world stuff, I'm a bit like, oh, that's a bit much.
But Rambo taps into all that, doesn't it? It taps into that, like the brutality of it. What he's been through, it influences everything about him. And, you can't sugarcoat it. And that's the thing, because literally it was recorded every step. There's no sugarcoating Vietnam at all. And there are some Vietnam films, I think, that do kind of try to make light of it, and they're forgotten. So,
fair enough.
It's all pretty much every Vietnam film you see is literally, hard, depressing. You witness a waste of life, if you like, and Rambo is the centerpiece of it. I think everything spawns from Rambo. All the emotion you see in subsequent Vietnam films, it all stems from Rambo.
I totally agree. I'm glad I rewatched it as well, because again it's a reappreciation and a reevaluation for me as well. Seeing it with older eyes, more experienced eyes. So.
I mean, that's the thing. When you're younger, you kind of watch it and go, "Wow, the action's great! Oh, he kills a bull with a spear! Oh. It's like Home Alone with machine guns and M16s."
I mean, you could do an alternative Christmas movie double bill: Home Alone and Rambo: First Blood.
To be fair, I think Home Alone should have more bloodshed than it does. It probably would have more than Rambo, to be fair. But yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I've got a podcast coming up on a film called Better Watch Out, which is effectively a more bloodthirsty Home Alone. So I think you might quite enjoy it. So
that sounds absolutely splendid.
It's got quite a few kind of twists in the tale, but I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Podcast is coming out, I think first week of December.
Nice.
So get it watched and get that podcast listened to. So that'd be
Dog's
good.
going crazy.
Oh dear. Hear my voice.
I probably can actually.
Get
that
you
man
know what
out
it
of
is.
my area.
Get him out of my area. It's because he heard Rambo kill all those dogs. He's not happy.
Well, yeah, I mean, Natalie wouldn't be able to watch this because of that. I mean, you don't see anything happen, but she wouldn't be able to watch it.
But that's another thing that kind of links back to kind of like slasher movies as well, because a lot of the time dogs end up dead in like slasher movies like Michael Myers, Halloween stuff. So again, it's kind of there's a few kind of those kind of weird links, to those kind of monster movies.
Yeah,
stuff.
definitely, definitely.
Cool.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I don't think I've got much more to say on Rambo. To be fair, it's been a terrific discussion, and
thank you.
So I say thank you very much for joining me on this mutually shared experience of an alternative Christmas story, and as part of my action movie November sort of endeavor, as I've called it. But yeah, it's been great. Where can we find you, Dan? Where can my small number of subscribers and followers find you?
So I do have a YouTube channel, Spider Dan Secret Balls. There's not much on there, but I think now with my new setup, I think I might be doing some more YouTubey stuff. So keep your eyes open. Podcast is Spider Dan and the Secret Balls. That's BORES. You can find it on all good podcast devices and apps, Spotify as well. Twitter, it's @Dan_Balls. Facebook, it's I think it's @Secret Balls. And where am I? Instagram, it is @Spider Dan Secret Balls. And there's a few other places I am, but those are the main kind of places you can grab me and interact with me. If you want any requests, I do like cult movies and comic books, mostly underrated kind of media. So if you've got any ideas for stuff you'd like me to do, you can also donate money on my Ko-fi.com. You can donate some money to me if you so please. Not many people do, but I appreciate the people that do. So if you want, but it's all there. It's all good stuff. I've got 80 plus episodes on the podcast to listen to. Andy is on quite a few of them as well. So,
I am.
Some really good ones with Andy as well. Some crazy Japanese movies, some crazy Nick Cage movies, a couple of very good westerns as well. We talked about some good stuff, and we talked about Nick Cage with you on this channel as well.
Primal.
Primal, that was it. Primal. Check that video out as well. That was a fun one. But no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I'm really enjoying Action Movie November. Please keep it up.
Oh, I will do. Don't you worry. I've got a few more to record and get out there. But yeah, it's been pretty good so far. So yeah, thank you for joining me on this Rambo First Blood adventure. So yeah, pleasure. If you like this video, obviously give it a like. What do you think of First Blood? Let us know in the comment section below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.
Angry Andy Review.